Plural sourcing is a pretty simple concept. It just means that some firms both make a product and they ask outside suppliers to make the very same thing. And it's an interesting reason why having outside suppliers means you can benchmark the efficiency of your own internal processes. Doing it internally is a way to have a little more bargaining power with those outside suppliers on price and quality. So it's an old idea, and there's a lot of research on when it emerges. In fact, some of it's here at the Carlson School, some of our colleagues in the marketing department. But what hasn't been asked is, once it emerges, how do we account for what proportion is made and buy? Could it be 50-50? Could it be 90-10 or 10-90? That's where we came in. We had a theory to explain the proportions, the percentages of plural sourcing, and we did it by reference to who those outside suppliers were, how many of them were, how large and capable were they, how much in the way of a turnover would you like in that? So our theory actually has some pretty non-obvious parts to it. For example, you might think, gosh, firms that engage a lot of suppliers, they do much less of the making if they have more suppliers. But we find just the opposite. That is, our theory says when you have lots of outside suppliers, you got to police them. And you may need a lot more people inside the firm to police them. And so it may end up that you're making a lot more in order to police many more outside suppliers. In fact, really our theory says the following. They're either companies that plural source that essentially bargain and oversight and supervise closely outside suppliers. And they need a lot of capacity inside to do that. Or they're ones that do plural sourcing based on a relationship basis. They trust, they commit. Now, it's trust but verify, and it's commit with mutual commitments by the other side. But in that regard, you might find companies that are plural sourcing have one or two big suppliers, broadly capable, and with a commitment to a long-term relationship. The other interesting thing is where we tested it. We didn't test it in the production of goods, even though historically that's what we think of. It's about making widgets. America is more and more about services. And in particular, America is very good at legal services. So we decided that we would test this theory of plural sourcing and supplier portfolio with lawyers and look at large Fortune 500 companies in the US, their general counsel's office, where they have lots of lawyers, and the outside law firms they use. We found that Fortune 500 firms that were producing the same legal services, patenting services, in-house and outside, they did more of it outside if they had fewer large, highly capable law firms, maybe a large firm on Wall Street or one of the big firms here in Minneapolis. Now, does that sound naive? Maybe. But what they did to kind of make sure that there was good quality and good pricing is there were mutual commitments they had. Maybe a senior partner would be on the board of that plural sourcing firm so that now she has a fiduciary obligation to look after the interests of the plural sourcing firm as well as the law firm. And maybe there was more in the way of turnover and sharing of lawyers in-house and at those law firms. So I don't think it was so much naive as much it was about relationship building. It ends up this is important because the future of the US is largely around services, not so much products. And I think it's also important because this research helps us to inform not just the future of plural sourcing, not just the proportions of it, but also to inform important debates that happen elsewhere in the university and in the professions. It's a chance for the business school to comment on what's going on in the law school. It's a chance for the business school to be relevant to professional services that are engaging in plural sourcing, starting with law firms, but not ending there. Think of accounting firms, think of engineering firms, think of consulting firms. They have the same choice of what to make and what to buy, the very same thing. And we think our paper, our study, our results and our theory can help them make better decisions that way.